Da-da-da-ba-ba-bum. Da-ba-dum. 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 Hello, everybody. Welcome to the episode 5 of the second season of the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. My name is Miroslav. I'm calling from Pančevo, Serbia. And today I'm going to be joined by a couple of Nuggets diehards. But before that, let me just briefly summarize what have happened around the Nuggets in these last 2 weeks since you've last heard me babbling about them. I'm not going to speak about the Jokic disrespect among the peers, nor about the NBA changing the order of the All-Star players picking just so him and, I guess, Lauri Markkanen could be picked last for the All-Star game. I guess guys like Donovan Mitchell, Zion Williamson, and of course European colleagues Sabonis and Doncic should be considered as more of a hipster new wave kind of stars who are allowed to step out of bounds and say that Nikola Jokic is a deserved soon-to-be 3 times MVP and more so the actual best player in the world. Instead, I'm going to speak about big news that came from Belgrade on Monday. After 18 months of qualification matches, after 41 different players represented Serbia due to insane levels of miscommunication between the NBA, the FIBA, and ULEB, which is a fancy name for the organization that owns EuroLeague, the national team of Nikola Jokic's homeland used their final chance and after beating Great Britain in the Ranko Žeravica Arena in Belgrade, qualified for the FIBA World Cup that will happen from August 25th to September 10th later this year. These dates are important to remember because of my dream, my birthday wishes for Nikola Jokic, for him to win both Larry O'Brien Trophy sometime around middle of June, and then winning the gold medal with Serbia on the World Cup. Basically, I hope Nikola will have about 60 days of rest between, let's say, Game 6 of the NBA Finals and his first day at the national team's training camp. Now, I know what will some say. Are you insane, Miroslav? Can't he skip the World Cup after playing in the NBA Finals? And I have news for you guys. Going forward, playing in the finals should be the perpetual goal. And at the same time, according to my calculations, Nikola will need at least 2 gold medals, and one of those should be from either World Cup or the Olympics, to be able to earn enough Miroslav points and become the greatest Serbian basketball player of all time. And that's an even bigger dream of mine. World Cup is actually the better chance of getting that gold than the Olympics, since the USA teams for the World Cups are usually very beatable to the best international teams. I will need Nikola to suck it up, win both trophies this summer. Well, technically the NBA Finals are still in spring before the summer solstice, but you get what I want to say. Suck it up, Nikola, and make both of your fan bases infinitely proud. Okay, now it's time to invite my first guest for today. He is a guy well known by every user of Nuggets Reddit, but also by everybody on the Nuggets Twitter. He is an artist that combines everything about the Nuggets with movies, music albums, general meme stuff, and you can support his work by buying his shirts and print. His name is Alec Gwin, but many people know him as just Lurk. What up, Alec?
Miroslav, how are you, my friend?
This is your podcast debut, right?
That is correct. You finally were the one to wrangle me onto the mic, so here I am.
So thank you for letting me take your podcast flower then.
Oh, by all means. Wouldn't want it from anybody else, to be honest, Miroslav. Yeah.
Okay, so if you have to describe your experience with the current Nuggets season in one word, what would it be? I'm putting you on the
Confident. I would say confident. Even in the tough losses we've had, I haven't felt the lows that I've felt before. You know, haven't been depressed for the next 3 days after we lost a big game. Even the Philly game, you know, I was okay by Monday. So I definitely feel confident about this team, and there's something in the air here in Denver that you can tell this is a special team, and they might go all the way.
I appreciate tons of content we have nowadays about the Nuggets and the other NBA teams. So this actually helps me to understand that it is a marathon. You need to, even in an awesome season, you still need to lose like 20, 22 games in a regular season.
Sure.
And perfectly fine.
Yeah, there's always going to be bad losses, right? Even though we expect to have none at the start of the season.
Yeah. So let's start with the basic. When did you become a Nuggets fan? And do you have the same level of enthusiasm for other Colorado teams?
Sure. I think, right as Melo was leaving was when I really started to pay attention to the Nuggets. And then that 2012-13 season was, I probably went to 15 home games and we didn't lose a one, which was nice. And that really got me into them. And that's how I found Nuggets Reddit from there. And then, yeah, I tried to get into the Avs. I'm a really big fan for 16 games a season in the playoffs. But since the Broncos won their championship, I've kind of fallen off on them as well. Not an easiest organization to root for in the first place. And then obviously the Rockies might as well not exist. It's basically we call it the theme park for transplants here. If you move to Denver from somewhere else, you're gonna have a great time watching your baseball team at Coors Field. So,
okay, that's really interesting. Tell me, what is your favorite Nuggets team? Like for these last 10, 11 years, you've been keyed on the most.
Gosh, that's tough. That I think it was around 2017 with Gary Harris, Will Barton, Jamal Murray on the emerge when Monty Morris first came in. So maybe right when he was first getting minutes. But I kind of just view it as Nikola's era, right? There's nothing like it, and every one of his teams has just been a version of his style of basketball in one way or another.
Do you have a favorite Nuggets player that nobody was high on?
Gosh,
like a niche guy.
I thought Eric Green could play when we traded for Cash and Eric Green for Rudy Gobert's pick. I was like, oh, this guy, he can shoot. He was the best shooter in NCAA or whatever that year. No, he didn't make it less than a year in the NBA, and then not that long overseas either. I don't believe.
Yeah, that's a pretty good take. I'll be honest. I haven't been to Nuggets Reddit for several years. I remember it being a pretty intense place, but I've heard from several sides that it's now actually a very nice place to be in and enjoy company of Nuggets fans. How would you describe the Nuggets Reddit experience today? And please sell it to the entire audience of the podcast.
Well, sure. It's a very enthusiastic group. Let's be certain of that. You have to really be into the Denver Nuggets to spend your time during the day in an internet forum talking about them. But I think the biggest thing is the community. The community has grown significantly over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's part of just internet fandom of the NBA growing, I think. But we've really sprouted up, and I think part of the value of Reddit is that it's an aggregator. It's a link aggregation site. And so when you have people submitting with no monetary incentive to submit content or submit ideas, submit memes, some do, it really is an organic place. And I think that's its best attribute.
Now, when you mentioned the memes, where do you get the inspiration for your art? And what was
I wish I knew, because I'd be making more, yeah.
So what was the design that was the hardest one for you to create?
Gosh. I think that the Serbian triumph I did when Jokic won his first MVP, I found and paid for a Roman triumph painting of Julius Caesar, and having to accurately recreate that, because that's what I really enjoy doing, is recreating posters, recreating pieces of art, and trying to make them look as similar as possible. And doing that one was easily the hardest, but one of the most proud of. And definitely didn't sell too well, but I was really proud of it.
It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. And by the way, people listening to this, you should know that Alec has very competitive shipping prices. So even for the orders to Serbia and other European countries, they're quite cheap. So go.
Yeah,
check
that was
it out.
that was a big thing for me when I started the store. the company I use to fulfill every order has shipping in Latvia, in Spain, in Australia. And so that's why I'm able to ship there affordably. And even though, I'll take a bath on taxes, if I can have somebody wearing my shirt in Germany or Poland for $0, that's fine with me. It's something I take pride in.
Yeah. The T-shirts that come for Serbia to Serbia are from Latvia, and I'm pretty sure one of the Bertans brothers is probably making them, because I don't know how many people are there in Latvia. So yeah,
certainly
that was a very bad joke.
I don't know why they picked Latvia to have a manufacturing facility, but it's worked great for my sales in Serbia. So
yeah, it works like a charm.
And this is cool. It's cool to be able to have support from around the world.
I'm
that's
now.
One thing about it. Yeah.
Right now, I'm waiting for one of the newer designs to come to my.
I appreciate your support, my friend. And yeah, that goes back to talking about the value of Reddit and the Nuggets Twitter as well, and just the community, is how international it is. We have fans, so many in Australia, Serbia, England, all over the world, Mexico. We've got a good number of Mexican fans now, and it's great. So
excellent, beautiful. Let me introduce the other guest for today. He is my favorite Nuggets podcast voice, always very articulate and I guess loud. Most of you know him as the Pickaxe podcast from the Pickaxe Podcast with his friend Zach Mikash. Movies are his big passion, but the Nuggets will be the end of him. Welcome, Gordon Gross.
That's me. You're like, you're my favorite guy to listen to. And I'm like, oh, but I hate my voice. I listen back to my own podcast and I'm like, it sounds terrible. So I'm glad that you like it. That's good for me. That helps me out.
How are you doing these days? How are you enjoying the current final stretch of the regular season for the Nuggets?
I mean, I'm ready for the playoffs, but all these games are fun. This last week has been kind of like playoff time anyway. They played Memphis twice, Cleveland once, and then, we'll not talk about the Rockets because that's not playoff basketball. That's like a scrimmage. But it's been great. I'm loving all of this because I've been around fandom a long time. I've been watching basketball since the mid-'80s, so you don't get to enjoy this for very long. Like we're well into Nikola's amazing tenure with the Nuggets. Like this is not, he didn't just get here. He's 28. It's not going to last another 15 years. Like enjoy this. This is the time. So enjoy every game. I'm soaking him up because there's going to come a time when he's gone, and I'm not going to be able to say, watch this guy do this crazy thing. We're not going to have that opportunity. So I'm taking them all now. I'm enjoying them now. If the Nuggets are going to have an 82-game season, because the NBA doesn't want to cut down their games, I'm going to enjoy the 82 games then. That's you can't stop me.
Yeah, I'm looking at those magic numbers they have to lock the number one seed in the West. And man, I think it's possible we'll see like last three games of like I don't know what to think about those last three games, because you might see Nikola Jokic, for instance, playing only in the first halves of those games. But I don't think Michael Malone right now wants to do that. He doesn't.
Well, Michael Malone doesn't want to. Michael Malone plays people 40 minutes in the preseason. Like this, him taking his foot off the gas is so antithetic to everything that he is. My big concern with Malone this year was whether he was going to be able to sacrifice wins to keep Jamal Murray healthy. And so far, the answer has been no. He is not. I mean, Jamal's already been out with like his other knee, and then he's playing a ton of minutes recently, just a ton. Guys out with back spasms, plays in Houston the next game. Did they need him to win in Houston? No. Does he play in Houston? Yes. Why? Because Jamal's a competitor and Malone's a competitor, and they can't let it go. And that's a huge strength unless something bad happens, and then it's really, really annoying. So I'm trying to hope that like Nug Life stays away for another 4 months. Like, just give me these 4 months.
I would even say that he actually sacrificed some wins at the beginning of the season by playing Jamal too much.
Well, that may be. Or maybe he's stubborn. I mean, Malone is one of his great strengths is that he does not care what other people think. He doesn't care.
Him and Jamal share that.
They love that. Well, that's why those guys are probably the best coach-player fit, just in terms of they understand each other. They are both the same kind of competitor. You know, they don't have other interests in the sense of, you know, if Nikola retired tomorrow, he would be playing, you know, basketball occasionally and doing horse racing a lot. You know, if Jamal Murray retires tomorrow, he's going to be on the court tomorrow. Like, that's just Jamal. You know, so he's a hooper, Malone's a hooper. That's just how it goes, man. That's their life, and I love that for them, but I just want them to be safe.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Best of luck with that.
No, I know. It's just like watching a car crash, right? You're like, just get through here. I just make it through this stretch, please.
So, in case you weren't sleeping in the backstage, you've heard my little rant about Nikola Jokic making the deepest of runs in both the NBA playoffs and the FIBA World Cup. Do you guys have any feelings about my ambitious play for him?
I was hoping that
season?
the Serbians were going to lose that last game. I'm not going to lie to you, because then Nikola doesn't have to play. If they're in it, he should play. I'm with you. But if they had blown it, I would have been like, oh, shucks. That's unfortunate.
I think you know, getting to know Serbians, I've come to understand how much it really does matter to them. And if they're going to wake up at 4 a.m. to catch our games, the least I think I can do is allow put my feelings aside for the Denver Nuggets and let them have Jokic for a few months.
Listen, right now I have this relationship with the Nuggets where my day begins with their game.
Right.
So it's either a great game because of a win or a shitty day because of the loss.
Yep.
But multiply that by 100 with the national team play.
Yeah.
Because last time Nikola was playing before last year, that was the 19 World Cup when they lost to Argentina and Facu Campazzo.
Yep.
In the quarterfinals, and I was like not speaking to my family for 5 days after that. So that was tough.
I love the fact that Serbians take it so, like, they have their whole chest into those games. I love that. It's one of the reasons why when they're like, well, Jokic, are you going to be fazed by playoff atmosphere? He's like, come on, brother. I played in Serbia. Like, the atmosphere in our games, yeah, you don't compare to that here in the States. You guys are tame. And they're not wrong. Like, those games are ridiculous, and everybody is up for those. Every minute of those games, everybody's up for. And like I said, if he is able to, he should be playing. Because that's the one thing that he can give back to Serbia. I mean, holding an NBA trophy is one thing, but bringing a gold medal home obviously means the world to his Serbian fan base.
Yeah, it clearly means so much to him to perform for his country. And you could tell how much it hurt him to get the negative reaction he did when his baby was being born and he was kind of rehabbing his injuries when he sat out that last time.
Yep.
And you can tell how much that truly means to him.
And both are equally important, to be honest, because I don't want only for him to be the best Serbian player of all time. I want him to be the best European player of all time. And that's why he needs at least 2 Larry O'Briens.
I hear
because we have Dirk, we have Giannis, we need 2 at least. So let's start with 2 and we'll see from there. Okay, last night was fun. The game against Memphis was really, really fun. Nuggets
too
are
fun
now...
for John Morant, but yeah.
I guess so, man.
It kept going on in Denver, apparently, till late in the night.
He needs some better advisors, man. You cannot just hang out with your boys, from your childhood. You need somebody grown up to control you.
I hope he gets a mentor,
exactly. You had a great tweet about it. So the Nuggets are now 45-19. They hold a 6 games advantage over the Grizzlies for the 1 seed in the West. Well, we'll see for how long, because Brandon Clark is now out for a year. Probably it's really, really bad news. And add to that the suspension of Ja Morant, and also suspension of Dillon Brooks, even though it's only for one game. And now maybe the Clippers might win a game with Russell Westbrook.
The Clippers might win a game finally. Yeah.
So we'll see if the Grizzlies will actually stay at the number 2 seed. But 6 games distance is really huge. It's 5 in the lost column if you want to be super conservative about it. What's your concern level about the matchup with the Grizzlies right now for the playoffs, if it's in the second round in the Western Conference Finals?
Alec?
Let's start with Alec. Yeah.
Gosh, my basketball opinions matter so much here. I think with Steven Adams, Jokic has always handled him pretty well. And so while he's a big influence for the Grizzlies with a lot of other teams, I don't think it'll make as much a difference. Losing Clark certainly hurts as well as another big body to throw out there, which seems to have worked sometimes with Jokic. But they're just immature. And the Nuggets were like this at one point, too, in terms of being inexperienced in the playoffs. And they don't concern me as much as some of the other teams of their caliber.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My concern is not necessarily with Memphis, and that has nothing to do with whether they can be a great team. They can be. They will be in the future if Ja can keep it together. But they don't have the offensive stability to score with the Nuggets for 7 games, and they haven't shown anything. I understand they pasted the Nuggets in Memphis, but that was more on the Nuggets than it was on Memphis. They're an incredibly talented team, but I don't think that they match up especially well with the firepower Denver can throw out. Denver butchered all of their early shots last night and still won going away. The second those shots fell, it was over. It was over.
And certainly years past, they couldn't handle that, right?
Yeah. My concern is actually with the Kings, and that's simply because Malone plays tight against the Kings. So,
so true.
It matters
if
to
he
him,
wins,
man.
He's gonna have to wear purple at some point. You can't just ignore one primary color.
Yeah, because it's one of these things where the Nuggets always have this thing when they play the Kings and they just can't get out of their own way, and it's I don't need that in the playoffs. The Kings are kind of like the Kings are weird because they're such a great offensive team and such a terrible defensive team that the Nuggets can score with them, but they aren't stopping anybody, and they're definitely not stopping Nikola. So the Nuggets should win that, but the Nuggets have to get out of their own way. And so with Memphis, it's more about maturity. You have those concerns with Sacramento too. It's weird. Everybody the Nuggets could possibly play has a concern about maturity, really.
I'm looking forward to possibly meeting Kings because I think it would bring the beast out of Jamal Murray because now he feels like De'Aaron Fox have moved past him in the tiers of players, at least for the large audience, and that was something that was unfathomable to me because I was always super low on De'Aaron Fox, but I have to admit he's having a heck of a. He has like eight straight games of 30+ points or something like that. Yeah. It's really, really, really good. So last night we've seen something new. We've seen Aaron Gordon with Jamal Murray playing with the bench guys, Reggie Jackson, Bruce Brown, and Jeff Green, I believe. Yeah. And 2 things I want to hear from you guys. How do we feel about Gordon at the 5? Was it just a result of Thomas Bryant getting hurt? And should we grow our hopes of seeing it again with a healthy roster? And secondly, how awesome was it to have Gordon and Jamal deep frying the combined lineup the Grizzlies had at that point? It was beautiful to watch.
No, man, it was beautiful. And it's I've been banging this drum for so long about the fact that the Nuggets have to do one of 2 things. You have to play either Murray and another scorer or Murray and a guy that can cut to the hoop and do other things. Like, they don't have either of those things on their bench that are working for them. And so when you took that understanding of how to play together with Gordon and Murray, and you put it with the bench guys who can just fill in around it, it worked beautifully. There are going to be games where I expect that to be, Jamal and MPJ, and you move MPJ maybe to the 4 because against bench lineups, he's going to be the biggest guy on the court probably. You might as well play him at the 4. The Nuggets can do these things, and if you have 2 starters, at least they have a connection. The problem is with Jamal Murray coming off the bench, or with the whole bench, the bench doesn't have a connection to each other yet, which we've already seen, and Jamal doesn't have a connection to any of them either. So you have the same problem you have with Bones, where the point guard's just trying to do everything. And if the shots fall, that works. And if it doesn't fall, you're behind. And this way, at least you had some chemistry, and that's what I want. So I'm hoping, I hope it's not just because of injury. I hope that the Nuggets figure out that they should be putting multiple starters on with the bench because, look, man, Jokic, is winning playoff series with guys that are on 10-day contracts. He can carry the starters for 3 minutes at the end of the first quarter. It's okay. Go ahead and flip some guys to the bench time. Aaron Gordon was exhausted when they had to do that with him because of the injury, but he played awesome, and I want more of that.
Alec,
yeah, I certainly wonder.
Do you trust Malone that he'll just say, "Oh, this was really good with Aaron Gordon at the 5. I should just start doing this from now on," or do we counter
certainly not? If we know anything about Malone, is that it takes him a long time to come around on these things, even if he does always come to the right conclusion most of the time. I wonder if last night they showed their hand a little earlier than they had planned with Aaron Gordon at center, because you heard Calvin talk about it a bit, and with Thomas Bryant going out, I think they kind of forced themselves into showing that, and it worked like they imagined it did. So we'll definitely see it a bit, but I wouldn't expect it too much in the rest of the regular season unless they have to.
Right.
Yeah, showing their hand, but they need to practice it a bit.
You got to get used to it. Yeah, that's my thing. Is you don't want to be hitting the playoffs and being like, let's try something we haven't done before. That seems to be our lineup. Just make it up as we go. I mean, because the problem is that Malone's a comfort guy, and if he hasn't done it before, he's not going to want to do it later. That's why I want the hockey shifts to change now. I want him to get used to it. What do they have, 18 games left? I want the next 18 games for Malone to get used to, right, this is when I pull the starters. This is when the other starters go back in with the bench. And I'll figure out what that, the ratio is supposed to be. But that's the plan. If they hold off on that until game 81, I'm not going to be real thrilled about it. Because those are the things you want to get right for the playoffs. You're still going to be playing 10 guys during the regular season or whatever. But you'll narrow those types of rotations down, but at least get the principle out there. So that you can get your guys ready to play. Because what happens if you get an injury in game 81 and none of those bench guys are ready to play? Nobody's ready for this plan. Nobody has any idea what's going on. Just get ready now. Please, I'm begging you. Last night was a good example of how it works, how it's supposed to work, and what I want to see.
It's going to be tough if he just wants to aim for the number 1 seed overall in the league. If he wants to beat Milwaukee, that has a 2-game gap right now on the Nuggets. If he wants to do that,
in how many games now? Right?
Yeah, they won 16 in a row. So, if they never lose again, it's not really a problem, I guess.
Yeah, that will help. That will help.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I've prepared a nice presentation for you guys, but before that, we'll take a short break. And we're back. Let's now go to the tweet of the week, in my not very humble opinion, and it comes from Gordon.
I see.
Not surprised.
You're trying to embarrass me in public. I see how this works.
I thought it was going to be his own tweet, to be honest. So this is a surprise.
I'm not that shameless, guys. I'm close, but not. Okay. So Gordon said, age at first title. 27 years old, Steph, LeBron. 28 years old, Isaiah Thomas, the old Isaiah Thomas, Shaq, Jordan, KD. Age 30, Wilt. 31, Hakeem, Dirk. 32, KG, Big O. 33, Dr. J, Admiral, Jerry West. Okay, Jerry West was a long-lasting loser, but yeah, what you gonna do? Jokic is 28, had a bubble playoff and 2 more where his team was wrecked with injuries. The idea that he is behind schedule is silly. So I wanted to speak a bit about this because we keep hearing from the famous national analysts that he's never done anything in the playoffs, and no context added to that, of course, because why bother? And we don't
require analysis. Yeah.
We don't want to put shame on Birds and Wilts and the third guy, guys that have won 3 consecutive MVPs.
Russell. Yeah.
Bill Russell. So giving 3 consecutive MVPs to this nobody that have achieved anything by his age 28.
Right.
So how can we explain why are these people doing this? Do you have a take on this, Alec?
I think a lot of the problems of the past people bring up, Jordan didn't get his 3 or LeBron didn't get his 3. They want to take that out on Jokic and say, well, he doesn't deserve it because of this. And that the same goes with him not winning a championship yet. They want to say just because it hasn't happened that way in the past doesn't mean it has to happen this way in the future. But I imagine Gordon has some more nuanced thoughts on it.
Well, the hot take area just means that you have to find some reason to argue against him. And arguing against him by on-the-court product is getting much, much harder. So you're going to have to argue legacy. You're going to have to argue if this guy retires tomorrow after winning 3 MVPs and he's never made the finals, can you really put him up there? You're putting him in the pantheon of NBA ball players. Can you do that? I mean, this is the same argument they have with advanced stats where they're like, I don't like that this stat says that he's the best. And you're like, okay, well, I can explain the stat to you. And they're like, I don't want to hear what the stat is. I just don't like the fact that it says he's really good. And people just have a problem understanding that he breaks the game the way that he plays it. That having a 7-foot point center doing triple doubles, every other game, it makes it really hard on defenses. And they'll fall back on, he's not a good defender, which is weird since the Nuggets are actually a pretty good defensive team. And, they're a great in, net rating. Like that's their bag, is that when he's on the court, they're amazing. If their bench played anything like it played last night, their teams would be, he would be sitting every fourth quarter. He'd be sitting every fourth quarter like, I don't play. I don't need to play. And people would take that as a knock on him. He's not even played 4 quarters. Look at his minutes. They're down so far. Winning is weird. It happened to Giannis. People seem to forget that. But Giannis went through the same stuff where people were like, nah, he can't play. He's one-dimensional. His offense isn't good enough in the playoffs because he can't shoot. He's never going to do whatever they thought he was going to do. And then the guy wins a title, and then they all shut up for a second. And they're like, now Giannis is their guy. And for some people, if rings are your thing, then yes, Nikola's not your guy. I get it. But the idea that he's never going to win a title is really weird to me. And with Giannis, it was he's never going to win a title in Milwaukee, that he needed to go to LA, that was the narrative, was that he needed to move. They don't say that to Jokic. They're not like, Jokic has to get out of Denver. They just say that he can't possibly be this good. It's not fair. It doesn't make sense to me. And for me, he's right on schedule. He's 28. He's right in the heart of a bunch of guys, who came in with his kind of problems. Steph came into a team that hadn't won anything in a bunch of years, and they had to build their roster around Steph. LeBron came to a team that hadn't won anything, and he had to leave eventually to get a roster where he could win something, and then came back and they won it there too. But Jokic is in that style where his play is unique, what he does is unique, and you have to figure out how to make it work and stay healthy. And the Nuggets are at that point now. I don't think there's anything to complain about, but apparently other people like to complain about stuff.
I have
so much of this.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Just so much of this concern about legacy, I think, ignores why I like watching Nikola play so much, and it's the joy of basketball every game he plays. It's enough, whether he never wins a trophy, whether he never wins another MVP, whatever it may be, getting to watch him play basketball for my city is more than enough joy for me.
Oh yeah.
I have a proposition for some talking heads from the ESPN, because it's unfair to say it's the ESPN, because there are so many great analysts on the ESPN working. But to those that really wants to push the narrative against Nikola Jokic, just make a new rule. Like in the All-Star game, the same coach cannot coach the All-Star team twice in consecutive years. So just make that rule, and the current MVP cannot be the MVP of next season, and everybody will be happy then, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. Like whatever.
That's a simple fix. That's great.
Make it a rule. It's a simple fix.
Well, and the thing is, if you're unhappy about it, they're like, well, Nikola didn't deserve it in previous years. And I'm like, okay, go point out to me who did. Like it, and I'll just make your case. I'm fine. Like he already won those years if it's really bugging you. But, Giannis has a strong case this year. If Giannis can stay, healthy, if Giannis can play the rest of the year and not be completely beat up, Giannis's teams are incredible. They're better without him than Jokic's teams are without Jokic. But Giannis has plenty of strong, categories in which would make him a very strong MVP winner. I don't have any problem with Giannis beating Jokic out for MVP. But the idea that it's ludicrous that Jokic is involved in the conversation is really odd to me. Like and when he gets accused of stat padding, that was the thing. He doesn't care about. I care about the MVP not at all, and somehow Jokic cares about it less than me. Like Jokic is actively angry at the MVP, but that guy, like the only thing that got under his skin was when somebody's accusing him of not playing the game the right way. And you can't do that to him, because that's his pride and joy, is in making sure that the team plays the right way, that they win the right way, that everybody isn't a selfish player, that you pass the ball, that you do your job, and everybody does. And he gets glory out of it. And I think sometimes it makes people think his team isn't as good as they are. Like if they win the title this year, they're going to have multiple All-Stars next year. And it probably won't be because they're playing better than they played this year. It'll just be because, they won a title. He can't be the only guy. He's going to help Aaron Gordon's Hall of Fame candidacy. Like, if Aaron Gordon gets a couple of 3 MVP or a couple, All-Star appearances and All-NBA nods, all of a sudden Aaron Gordon goes from meh, for his early part of his career to being like, oh, yeah, that guy was good. He was just trapped in Orlando. He changes narratives. Jokic changes narratives on players, and that's what I'm hoping to see going forward, is those narratives continue to grow.
My favorite current hot take is that the Nuggets currently have 3 Hall of Famers on the team. They just need to win 3 championships, so we'll realize that.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Well, but that's the thing, right? I mean, championships get you the resume. You can be a great player without a great resume, and it makes it much more difficult. Golden State, if Clay had played for Minnesota, is Clay a Hall of Famer? No. Is Clay a Hall of Famer because he plays and has won titles and has been perfect in his role? Yes. Yep. But that's exactly what has happened. He's an amazing shooter who's also incredible in his role and helped definitively win multiple titles. And that's what the Nuggets are looking for, is to carve out that resume for their other non-Jokic players. Jokic is a Hall of Famer today. Like, that's done. We don't have to talk about that. That's over. But for other guys, for their legacies, that's what's going to happen when you get rings. Jokic becomes an inner circle Hall of Famer with rings. That's what's going to happen. And people are going to be mad about it forever. But if he wins multiple rings, that's it, man. You're in.
How many jerseys are going to have to retire to our rafters too? We've got a pretty low bar here with Doug's wins up there. So if we win a ring, I guess KCP's up there, Murray, Vlatko. Gosh, I might as well hang them all. I'd be okay with that.
There you go.
Yeah, it will be the first championship in 40-something years in the NBA. So it should be celebrated properly. I'm all for it. Bring them all in the rafters.
That's right.
One last thing I want to ask you in this segment. I like to look to the future, too much. I admit that, but I can't help it. How sure are we that Nikola Jokic's peak have already started? And for how long can we expect his peak to last? Now, we know he has a 5-year max, supermax coming up this July, so he will probably not retire before the end of that contract. But realistically, we are talking about the third MVP right now, and the fourth MVP would be like uncharted waters. It never happened in the history of the league. But we are talking about a guy that will always be top 3 in the MVP, unless, of course, he's hurt for extended period of time or something like that. How long can we realistically expect with his speed and quickness and leaping ability for his extended peak to last?
Well, gosh, if there's one thing I know about Nikola Jokic is that you can't overestimate him. Ever since he started playing basketball here in Denver, he has exceeded expectations wholly. So to put a cap on him now, after all he's already accomplished, would be the most foolish thing. So the sky is absolutely the limit. Give us 5, give us 6 MVPs. I'm fine with that.
Well, the thing is, everybody's peak is normally determined by how well you can keep up athletically with your peers. You start losing peak when, like John Morant, like when he loses that first step, that's going to be a problem for him because he's going to have to develop that MJ fall away, which MJ had to do because he couldn't drive by guys that easily anymore with bad knees because he got them from jumping in the air all the time. Jokic doesn't jump anywhere. Jokic doesn't hurt himself. Jokic jogs up and down the court and then, he beats people up on the block. His arm scars aren't going to weigh his arms down too much for him to lift them to get shots up. His touch is not going to go away. I mean, that's the one thing that we know about great players is the last thing to go is your touch. Ray Allen from a wheelchair will be able to hit threes. Like that guy will be in an old folks' home, hanging out on the porch, and he will just switch everything. So, Jokic's touch is his gift forever. So, is it going to come to a point where he can't play the kind of minutes and carry the kind of burden that you would expect? Yeah, I mean that comes for everybody, But as far as what makes him great, his vision, his ability to score from anywhere, that stuff's with him forever. You can't take that away. It's one of the reasons that LeBron has been great forever. Is that the things that make him great are really hard to stop. You're not getting a guy whose ability to dunk goes away and now his shot's a little broken. He can't make it work. Like Tim Duncan couldn't shoot. So I love Tim Duncan. He's the greatest power forward in the history of the game. Tim Duncan was the worst 3-point shooter you ever saw. Like just a clank machine. And he was not great from the free throw line. It wasn't his bag. His bag was doing amazing things 6 feet from the rim. All the time. And Jokic will have that too. He's also bigger than Tim Duncan. So how long you want it to run? Jokic can play his game forever. If he wants to play basketball for Serbia when he's 44 years old, they'll probably win a silver medal because he's just off the bench. He'll just be like, yeah, bring me in for 20 minutes. I got this. I will pass. I will do ludicrous things. Everything will be fine. So no, if he stays healthy, I have no concerns about that. His peak will be long because it's not built on the things that vanish when you turn 31.
I don't know how much is it, publicly known, but Arvydas Sabonis, when he came to the NBA, he had both of his Achilles destroyed before he came.
Oh, I didn't even know. I thought it was just his knees. Yeah, gosh.
No. It was both. He had Achilles problems.
Yeah, both of them. So basically, if he came to the NBA in his prime, he would probably be the best center in the league, in the late 80s.
Oh, they knew it when the U.S. played those teams. They knew that. That's the reason that he got drafted and that Portland waited around forever. They were like, it's fine. Whenever you get here, it's fine. He wanted to come earlier. His team wouldn't let him, and then his team botched the surgery.
Yeah.
That
Real
caused
Madrid,
his problem. If he'd been in the NBA, he would have had a much healthier career. It sucks.
Yeah, and why I brought up Aridas is because he is the guy that was awesome even with 2 bad Achilles and bad knees, because he was such a great player with great touch, with great feel for the game. So this is what I expect from Nikola, unless of course he goes full on, horse racing in his.
Well, that's the thing. How long he wants to play, right? He said he's never playing as long as LeBron. He's like, I will not be doing that. Does he want to watch his daughter grow up? If his kids are going to be, whatever age it is that he says, I'm just going to go, play with the horses while they're at school, and then like when they get off school, we'll hang out. Whatever that age is that he determines to do that, he's just going to hang it up. And I don't have any problem with that. He could play till he's 40 and still be an effective player, assuming no injuries, because his game's not going to vanish. But I don't expect him to do that because he has other things that are more of a priority for him, especially once he hangs a banner or 2 or 3. Like, that's all I want is the championship and to have been able to say I saw him play. I used to I lived in Seattle when Michael Jordan was winning championships. The last few of his championships, and I would buy tickets. I loved the Sonics; they were great. But I didn't buy tickets to watch the Sonics. I bought tickets to watch Jordan to say I saw him play in person, and you have no idea what that was like. And I'm going to be telling people that about Jokic too. I saw that in person, and you can't possibly understand how great this guy was. It's
just like when people around Denver are telling me about David Thompson. Every single old head I've ever talked to says he could take a dime off the top of the backboard. That's their go-to stories. When special players are around, you want to be there and remember it. Certainly. Right.
He's already given us that. It's been awesome. Like the last thing left for him to do is to hang the banner that no one else could hang in Denver. And that's it.
And if he can't do it, that
if he can't do it, maybe nobody can. Yeah.
You might be cursed.
Yeah. Nug Life might win forever. We might be eternal.
Nikola versus Nug Life. That's just the ultimate ultimate beast he must slay.
He's our champion, right? Like, we're like, look, our previous champions weren't good up to the task, but this is the best we've ever had. Let's see what happens.
Okay, let's now go through hopefully some fun either's ors. So I'm gonna give you. Look at this beautiful graphic. Okay, so
D-line's so good.
Yeah, it's all me.
It's a great font choice as well. I love it. Yeah.
Would you rather play against the LeBron-less Lakers or against the Timberwolves, who would be forced to play both Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert in the playoffs?
I'll go first. I'll take the LeBron-less Lakers. I would much rather just rub it into the Lakers' faces that Anthony Davis is not that guy. And nothing will prove it more than watching Nikola just take him to town over the course of 4 games. So, I'll go with that.
Same. And that's just simply because the media would be like, well, the Lakers, even without LeBron, have a chance. And the Nuggets would be like, no, you don't. And they're like, well, we're going to play 8 on 5.
Yeah, we never hear it.
The Nuggets like, I don't care. Like that.
In 2 years, they're going to be saying, remember when they took 1 game off of Jokic without LeBron?
Yeah.
We never hear the end of it.
Yeah, it'll be a gentleman's sweep probably, because we'll be like, I feel bad for you. Here you go. But give me that. And that's simply because the eyeballs will be on the game. Like, nobody's watching the Timberwolves Nuggets because they're going to assume the Nuggets are going to win. And all that doesn't matter. Jokic could go for 50, 20, 20, and they wouldn't talk about him. It would be about whatever the LeBron-less Lakers are doing somewhere else. So, yeah, give me the Lakers, give me the eyeballs, give me the pub, and let Jokic go ahead and drop them in the ocean. That's totally fine.
And give me thousands of Lakers fans in the stands in Denver.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
Like going out after third quarter. That's
just imagining them sitting in traffic for 40 minutes on the way out. It warms my heart.
Exactly. Enjoy that L.
So many L's. Yeah.
Yep.
So many L's.
Yeah. And I think with the Timberwolves too, like they kind of did themselves in. I don't have a lot of angst or ill will towards them as I did, in the summer for taking Tim Connolly, because it hasn't gone well. So it would be good to beat them, but I think it would only be just to reaffirm what we already know.
Right.
Yeah, and I kind of like bad other teams. Like I feel like, oh, they're nice. They have nice culture. They have nice players there. I enjoy watching them. And then as soon as they become good, like Memphis, for instance, at least for a moment.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate them right away. Okay, next either or. Who would you trust more in the playoffs? Vlatko and Christian Brown, or Reggie and Thomas Bryant? Like, if you would have to pick,
I would take Vlatko and Brown. And that's simply because they've been with Nikola longer. They know how to play with him. They know how to play without him. Reggie doesn't know how to play with Nikola, and he doesn't know the players he's playing with well enough to play without Nikola. Bryant's not going to get to play with Nikola. Both Vlatko and Brown can play with Nikola. So, that's, the problem is that the roles that Reggie and Bryant need to have, those are not easily combined into playoff basketball if they don't get it right now. So right now, I don't trust them, and I would definitely be playing Vlatko and Christian Brown.
Yeah, this certainly could change in a couple weeks. I think Malone's probably going to give Reggie and Bryant a few more games to try to work something out. And because Reggie does have the pedigree of being in the playoffs and knowing that intensity and knowing the competition, which I think Brown might struggle with. He's a winner and he's been in big moments, but he could get shook a little bit. But I'm taking Vlatko, man. He's played in the most intense games in Europe, and he plays such a fundamental style of basketball that you can't go wrong with that guy.
And he was so good in Europe too. Like, his games for Slovenia are just awesome.
He playing with Luka, and you're doing well, and Luka's his supporting cast at that point. So yeah, right. It's great.
Yeah, I think we can expect both Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant to be in the playoff rotation in game 1, and I'm not sure we will see them in game 2 or 3. So he might
game 1.5.
Yeah, he might want to play those guys, and at the end he'll just probably. Honestly, it's the best case scenario. If Reggie and Thomas can be better than Vlatko and Brown,
we're good.
Yeah,
I like that plan. Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
Being injury-free for any teams would be tough, so having that kind of replacement would be fantastic. But and gosh, Malone doesn't have the relationship like he's had with other players with Reggie and Bryant, so maybe he'd be a little more interested in cutting them early if he needed to than say a Will Barton or Jeff Green or whoever it may be.
He's not 3 years invested in guys who have gone to battle for him. They got here a few games ago. Yep.
Or DeMarcus Cousins, per se, or something. If you didn't know, they were friends once. Yeah.
Next one. Revised history. If Tim Connelly listened to Nuggets Twitter and drafted Desmond Bane, would they now be better with him instead of KCP? Now, I realize they could have had both, but let's pretend they could have had either of these two guys. Would they be a better team today with a borderline all-star Desmond Bane?
Go ahead, Al.
Gosh, I can't really speak too much on Desmond Bane, in that I saw his T-Rex arms when in the draft profile, and I was out on him immediately. So that was one of the most wrong takes I've ever had. But KCP, his pedigree and his maturity and his experience, I think, is super valuable to this team, and so it's hard to replace that even with even a better player in Desmond Bane.
I would say they would be better with Bane, but that's because they still have Monte Morris on the bench. So if you didn't have to trade Monte Morris and he's running your bench unit, you're doing fine. Like they would be better for that. It's not necessarily that Bane is a better option than KCP. It's that because you didn't draft Bane, you had to go give stuff up. It's the same thing with when they had to go acquire Aaron Gordon, and they had to do that because of their offseason. Once you can't retain someone's services, then you have to go ahead and make it up. And so they traded extra draft picks, to go ahead and make that happen. I don't have a problem with that. Like not everything works. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just that not everything works. And so I wish everything worked out all the time and that you didn't draft Jusuf Nurkic and then have to trade him for nothing because he was throwing a fit about the fact that Nikola Jokic is amazing. It's not that, Jeremy Grant wouldn't have fit. Jeremy Grant would have fit. That would have been great. Is Aaron Gordon better than Jeremy Grant at what the Nuggets need from him? Probably. But would it be better to have the extra picks? Maybe. That you didn't have to give up. But in this case, yes, I think they'd be better, but it's mostly because of Monte. And trying to find somebody to run the bench has been a freaking nightmare. And I would love to have Monte back just for that purpose.
Gosh, Monte and Plumlee might just win the whole thing right away, right? So run it back, man. I'm a homer, man. Just
run it back.
Yeah.
Nuggets fans are super divided on Plum Dog because we remember how good the bench was with Plum Dog in the regular season, but then there's that last shot from.
Well, gosh, he's shooting left-handed now, so who knows? What his ceiling might be. So.
True. Okay, let's run now through through these last ones. So first one, when the Nuggets win the championship, when, not if, whose first appearance would you like to watch more? Nick Wright's or Mark Jones's? Explaining what happened.
I guess I would take Mark Jones because he's probably willing to be wrong. Nick Wrong is not willing to be wrong. And so
he would just spin it around again.
Certainly, yeah. And it's a shame because Nick Wrong is right on a lot of things in life. He seems like an all right dude, but when it comes to his Nikola Jokic takes, it's just not it. I don't see him walking that back anytime soon.
Right.
Mark Jones, he'll just be pissed about it. He'll admit it, but he'll just be very upset, and I'll be there for that as well.
Okay, next one. Who will average more assists per game in the playoffs? Nikola Jokic, whose current playoff average is 6.4, or Chris Paul at 8.3? Now, this is not an easy question because, if the Nuggets have a longer playoff run than the Suns, for instance, Chris Paul could be awesome in round one and just do not play after that.
Right.
That's tough, man. That's real tough because the shooting that the Suns can provide to come to the playoffs is still hypothetical at this point, right? We really haven't seen them do too much, but Jokic is on a tear with his assists, and he's got the best shooters around him that he's ever had. And so, seeing that number 6'4" sounds low, right? But it's because Jokic has had to carry so much of the scoring load over the last couple of years, and when you're passing to Austin Rivers or whatever, it's a little different than KCP. But Chris Paul's cursed, so I'm going with Jokic.
There you go. Also, Devin Booker is going to have the ball in his hands a lot, whereas Jokic will have the ball in his hands the most of anyone in the playoffs. Like the Nuggets are not going to go away from the Nikola Jokic offense in the playoffs anymore. I know Jamal's probably going to do very well in assists in the playoffs, but I still expect that Jokic will top Chris Paul in that.
I need Jamal Murray's double-digit assists in playoffs. I need them so much.
Well, it's funny, right? Like when they drafted Murray, my thought on Murray was he is not ready to be a point guard. It's not going to happen. Like I'm glad he got drafted to the Nuggets, but they should be playing two shooting guards with Nikola Jokic, and let's see how that works. And they've been doing that, and it's been working. But I will say that Jamal Murray's ability to be a secondary point guard off of Jokic has been improving every year. I still don't
tell George Karl.
Well, I still don't think that he's ready to be a point guard of a Chris Paul type anytime soon. That running an entire offense isn't necessarily what he's great at. But I don't think Dame Lillard's great at that either. I think
we haven't asked him. We haven't asked him of that. Yeah.
I don't think anybody should. Like when you can score
Mhm.
like that, Chris Paul can't score like that. That's why he passes like that.
You want Dame passing the ball up, or do you want him shooting the three?
Yeah,
right?
do you want Dame getting 70 because he can't miss, or do you want Dame being like, I feel like you should shoot this? No, you should shoot the ball.
No, CJ, take the shot. Yeah.
Yeah, Dame. Okay, last one for today. Who will average more threes per game in the playoffs? Jamal average 2.7 or Donovan Mitchell 3.3?
Donovan.
Gordon, you go.
It's Donovan. And that's just because Donovan is on an MVP, I'm the guy, total usage, crazy streak. And Murray's going to have games where he does that, and he's going to have games where he definitely does not do that. What I loved about the most recent games is Murray's willingness to give the shot to MPJ and Jokic's willingness to look for MPJ. That we have a third guy. We've worked him into the rotation. It took us freaking 3 years to do it. But finally, we realized that there's a guy who's never going to be really bringing the ball up more than a handful of times. We should probably make sure he gets the ball. And that wasn't happening, a year ago, 2 years ago. That wasn't happening. And so the fact that it's happening now, I love that. Because it means that when Jamal's hot, just keep the ball, shoot the lights out. When you're not hot, find the other guy who's a crazy good shooter and help him out. Give him the ball a little bit, feed him. And so the Nuggets will be doing that. So I don't expect Jamal Murray's 3-point shot to be as high usage as I expect Donovan.
As voluminous. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine Jamal Murray on the Cavs team, how much he'd be chucking, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Donovan Mitchell doesn't have anybody like Jokic to put a check on that. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have anybody to do that. So, yeah, he's going to be serving him up, and we've seen what Mitchell does in the playoffs. So I have to imagine he'll get the volume up,
Yep, it'll be high
Percentage-wise, though, I'll probably take Murray still.
The worst thing for the neutral fans is the fact, I mean, it could happen in the finals, but if it doesn't, it's so sad that we won't be seeing Jamal guarding Donovan and Donovan guarding Jamal again. That was a piece of it as well.
That was the fun thing about Donovan being in the West, was watching those two guys just go at each other. Yep.
Yeah. Man, I rewatched one of the artists out there, a Japanese artist named Shion, did like a whole anime manga series of that matchup, and I was looking at that last night, just reminiscing on how fun that was. It was good stuff.
Yep.
Now that you mentioned that, do you have anything fresh and exciting in your store to promote?
No. I'm pretty. It's still a hobby, so I kind of throw things up there as I please. I'm working on this Super Nikola entire basketball system hat, but I've got to do some revisions first before I get it up there. But there's plenty of classics up there that people seem to rediscover every couple of months. So by all means, check it out. If you Google Lurk Designs, Lurk, you should be able to find it just fine.
Gordon, can you promise us the return of the Pickaxe podcast soon?
I can't speak for Zach. I will say that Zach and I are in conversation about it, or will be, and then he may find out from this podcast that he and I are doing that, but that's okay. I have voluntold him that this is going to happen, and we'll make sure that we can at least get some good playoff stuff up.
This was very fun.
We'll be looking forward to it. Yeah.
This was very fun, guys. Thank you again.
Appreciate the invite. Yeah.
Big thank you.
Yeah, appreciate
everybody.
It, Miroslav. You're the best out there, man. It's an honor to be on here with you, and I really appreciate what you both bring to the Nugget sphere out there. So it's truly an honor.
Nice words. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who stayed with us all the way to this sentence. You are awesome human beings. See you again in a couple of weeks, and go Nuggets.